Well, that was a nice episode, mainly for the fact that any tribe could have gone to tribal council this episode because this episode was great at introducing just the right amount of talk for all the tribes and all the possible situations that it really did leave you on your toes. Now, I figured that there was a slight chance that it wouldn't be Vanua just because there seemed to be an abnormal gap between hearing things on that tribe and me just thinking the story hasn't changed much. The only way they could go back to tribal is if there's a slight shift, even if it goes back to Michelle getting booted, just like everyone would have predicted. Because ultimately, David showing the idol to Zeke, there wasn't really any real ramifications because of that. There could be some next episode when the merge comes, but I didn't really think too much of it when he showed it, given how little we heard from Zeke afterward. The main thing that got to me in Zeke's confessional was that background. That's the first time in Survivor that I can recall where I look at a background and I go, I don't know, that seems kind of fake if you ask me. I just find it hilarious that a potential game shifting event, happened, and the thing that strikes my mind is that background. Funny, huh? Right, so then there was the talk that we were getting on the Purple Tribe. I don't know why I can remember the tribe that was once the Millennial Tribe, and yet I can't remember the names of the Purple Green tribes. I have no clue why, but the talk that we got to there, it does go to show that Taylor isn't necessarily the brightest bulb out there, although it was interesting to see, one, how much Ken and Jessica appeared to be willing to trust him, even though they don't trust him that much. It was annoying that we didn't really hear too much from them. I'm beginning to think that they're not going to matter for the next few episodes based on this little discussion. Who knows, though? You can go from being perfectly safe one round to being in big trouble the next one. It's happened before. I can't think of too many examples. Oh, yeah, Danielle. There we go. Right. So there's that little dynamic. And it will be interesting to see how Adam re-emerges with the Millennials, especially since, to my knowledge, Taylor didn't rat him out during the challenge. It could be that he did. I need to actually listen to Michaela's full exit interview and then pay more attention to exit interviews here on out. So there's that little dynamic. And then all the discussions on the Green Tribe, well, it was about time that they started discussing what could happen if they lose, even though I figured the odds were against them, because they had a pretty good team there. Even though it was Michaela winning half of the challenges, but it always did seem like her and Jay were doing the biggest stuff once they divided the tribes into that little group. Although I was kind of bummed that there weren't any more discussions about the idol, which is odd because, like Jay getting it, we've seen this kind of play with the idol before, but more people know the idol than the owner of the idol usually suspects. We haven't really seen that much of that. So, yeah, I wish there had been more on that field. Now, so those challenges, those were nice challenges, especially since the episode had left me in a fairly neutral spot. So I just decided to sit back and watch the show, and I was impressed at the reward challenge where Michaela was able to do the comeback, because I thought Ken, with his wheeled-on arms like I've got, even though this camera was kind of a bit of a poor excuse to show it, because it's easy to exaggerate things in camera shots like this, and just because of some guy like him, you'd think he would have it, but it is kind of tough to do it because they do kind of have to shoot it almost straight up with no real force, and that is a little harder than it seems. So yeah, but Ken throwing the ball away at the end, just dude, you lost because of dumb luck. That's it. You could have made any one of those shots. She could have missed that last shot. Come on. It's understandable though to be frustrated when you lose, okay? And, to be fair, probably throwing the ball away was all he did. That's my thinking, because a lot of the times when things don't work out the way I want to on these reality shows, usually I'm able to get most of my frustrations out like that. that, even though I'm disappointed for a while afterwards, yeah. And then as for the Mutiny, that was a pretty nice comeback by Vanua, although, Michelle, how did you not figure out that combination thing? I mean, like, usually when you have, free two-digit number combinations to figure out, what you do is you put either the biggest or smallest number in the middle. That's generally how it works, just like in The Price is Right, where usually if you're given a zero, that's the last number on a price. You watch enough of these kinds of things, you pick up on a few clues. So yeah, you shouldn't have even put, what was it, 32 in the middle? Yeah, why did you do that? Yeah, that was ridiculous, but turns out they got lucky with the slingshot, and yeah, that set up a pretty interesting dynamic to what was going to happen on that green tribe. So then the big question becomes, are they going to get rid of Michaela or not? That seems to be the main dynamic, and I wish we had also seen more of her strategy board there, because she's like, it doesn't matter who we get rid of, but that didn't help that much, because like, oh yeah, sure, you give Millennials a little bit more of an advantage down the line if it ends up being Millennials versus Gen X again, but odds of that were pretty low. And I mean, like, sure, every millennial that was on the Green Tribe was somebody who voted on Mari, but Michaela was one of the two swing votes, the other one being Hannah. Will wasn't a swing vote. You could tell he was going to vote out Mari back then. So, yeah. We should have seen more of that, because, like, I was thinking that she could have made the pitch about, given how we're going to still have our four in the core, if we can just pull in two people back from our side, we theoretically can take this whole thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking that she should have done, but to be fair, one, it's a tough time to figure out which two you're going to pull if you haven't really had any interactions with these people. And then number two, given how they merged at 13... Yeah, and I don't know what the deal is with them suddenly upping it. I guess this is going to be the new precedent, like in the Philippines, how they shifted from a 9-member jury to an 8-member jury now. Interesting. Right. So then the tribal ends up being McKay, and that was pretty interesting how she actually managed to get the voting readings to stop, and then she goes, "You voted for me?" Jay's like, yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how the dynamic of that goes down, because they can tell he means business, yeah. Yeah. Gloves come off, even though you can argue he kind of manipulated the outcome back when Maui was gone. Actually, no, he did, kind of, because he was the one who started the turn of the general tide against Figgy, but I think it was Michelle that ultimately convinced Hannah and maybe Michaela to flip. I don't know who necessarily the 6th vote was, because they needed 6 for that situation. And even then, looking... No, let the past be the past, right. So then as for next week, I think it's going to be interesting, but I'm going to tell you one other thing about next week. I honestly don't think I'm actually going to be able to think of top picks this season, because like with Kagayan, my mind is just all over the place, so if I end up doing topics, it's probably just going to be kind of random. Just a heads up. I don't mind being wrong with the top picks, just...